Yeah.
Great. So hello everybody. I mean, many of you I've met before, and it's really nice to see you all again. And I love the way that the Creative Europe desk has managed to kind of create a community of us. So well done to you lot for keeping on having these events, especially now when things are so uncertain. So yeah, my name is Melly. I'm a director of D6 Culture in Transit and a recent director of D6EU. But I'm no expert. I have to say that up front. You know, we've done what we've done. We've worked out what we've needed to work out, but we've not necessarily done it from a basis of pure knowledge. So everything that I say, I have to say, you'll do it. In Newcastle, studios and offices in the centre of the city where we host residencies for artists and we create programmes with partners. Been working on Creative Europe programmes for many years. So why did we decide to set up D6EU? I mean, I guess it's fairly obvious. When the election came in December, we made a final decision when Boris Johnson's government got in that actually the way forward, or the way to protect ourselves, to take back our own control, would be to set up something as a sister organisation. Now, so for us working in the northeast of England, and some pretty pics of the region that we work in here, projects like Creative Europe are so important for connecting our corner of the world to other corners of the world. And when you're not in the centre, and however we describe that centre, Creative Europe is really good at connecting places that aren't in the centre to other places that aren't in the centre in a kind of in a equitable way, which is something that I'm going to truly miss. So our current project is called Contested Desires. This came about 4 years ago, and we're working with partners in Portugal, Spain, Italy, Barbados and Cyprus, looking at our shared European colonial history. It kind of grew from the hostile environment, I guess, in the UK being spread around the Windrush scandal, but also in looking at what it meant truly for us to be Europeans. And there's no denying that part of that is the history and the shame, I guess, of the history that we share. So this was an idea that we had mooted to various partners that we already knew. We then did an open call, got a huge response back. And the idea had been for us to continue with a large-scale project in the next round. What we're wading through at the moment is in what way can D6 be a part of that, D6 UK, and in what way can our new NGO be a part of that. It's galling when you spend so much time developing a programme to feel that you have been cut out of it with really little other support known at this moment in the UK. So it's a couple of pics from Contested Desires. And that's one of our partners in Barbados. Cyprus. So we had been working with Cypriot partners in the past. My heritage is Cypriot, and I had an interesting conversation actually with Ellen and Alexandra following the previous meeting around setting up organisations in places that are connected to one of your workers or one of your directors. And in a way, the ease of doing that, but also the weight of responsibility when it's your connection that's making it happen. So we selected Cyprus for a number of reasons, though, and we went through a very, very clear process with our board. It was really, really important for me that I didn't carry the weight of that responsibility as the director because of the connections that I had. So I had to be absolutely sure that I had my board and staff along with me all the way. We went for Cyprus in the end, and we did research other countries. We looked quite closely at Belgium. We looked quite closely at Romania at one point with an invitation from colleagues to go there. We didn't consider Ireland because we had no partnerships there at that moment. But we did look at countries, frankly, Commonwealth countries, so also looking at Ireland and Malta and Cyprus, countries that shared a kind of British approach to law and a British approach to finance accountancy. This gave my board, my most board, a really clear idea of how it would work, and it took the weight off me, I guess, as the person who would have to be the expert, having been a director, a board member of Culture Action Europe and their treasurer for 5 or 6 years. the systems in Belgium was so complex and so difficult for me to grasp, even with that role, that I didn't want to have to be the person or the interlocutor between a system I didn't really understand so well myself and my own people at home. So that was why Cyprus. So we did it by researching, of course, a lot of research on what it would mean to be an NGO in Cyprus. We did it by looking at who was on the ground already in Cyprus, and we did it by joining forces with one of our current project partners, Adgira Tumatsu, who's this fantastically energetic producer in Cyprus with a long history of creating difficult and complex bi-communal projects between the north of Cyprus and the south and the southern Greek part. So she seemed like a really, really good person to go with. So we set up D6EU as a sister organisation. Again, we had two options. We worked with lawyers in Cyprus, and at the time we had a lawyer on our board in the UK, which was also very useful. We looked at subsidiaries and we looked at sister organisations. Now, in order to run a company, an NGO in Cyprus, it was really important for us that we could set up something which would have a value in Cyprus. So not just an umbrella organisation or a landing point for the recipient of international monies, but actually that had a meaning in the place where we were setting it up. So we therefore went down the route of developing a sister organisation rather than a subsidiary, as a subsidiary would not have given us, under Cypriot law, the ability to apply for national funds, which of course we would need to do were we to start developing transnational programme. What we've developed in Cyprus, or what we are in the process of developing in Cyprus, is something that gives us the opportunity to continue our European programme, of course, but actually it's something that has a meaning in its own right at a local level. So its focus is going to be slightly different from D6 in the UK. We will work on a European level. We will work on a European level, working into the Middle East. This was a little launch that we did in a month or so back. So we have new, I don't like the term market, new opportunities for relationships with the Middle East and other parts of Europe, parts of which we are already working with in Greece and in Turkey. So it was interesting for us it's starting to be interesting for us to work out what the opportunities are there. I think selfishly, the other reason why Cyprus was useful for us is because we did look around at what else was available, what else was happening in the cultural sector, and actually Cyprus, really, for an organisation like D6, it was a useful addition to the programme that was already there. We did a little bit of consultation within the sector at a local level. We didn't want to, it's a tiny island, so we didn't want to step on anybody's toes. Instead, we wanted to be there supporting the sector as much as we could at a local level. So what next? I forgot what my next slide is after this. So we're now in the process of having launched. We're planning a series of talks around the European Green Agenda, which is very interesting to colleagues in Cyprus and to ourselves. Something that in the UK, no longer being a part of Europe, but we're not necessarily using that same language. So for us, it's part of our capacity building to keep up with the European agendas, which will start in the new year. In order to do that, we're putting in our first application to the Cypriot Ministry of Culture to fund the programme. And that was me.